Hello, 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 and welcome to this month's amazing lineup on the Her Version Impact panel. We just hit our 100th guest speaker last month. We now have over 460 YouTube videos, over 100 audio podcasts, and we just hit today over 500 members in our Facebook group. Be sure to join us. I am thrilled to have a female panel filled this month as we talk about self-love and holistic healing, something so many women and men are looking for, especially right now. The conversation around this topic will be broad and will guarantee to educate you on so many areas of your life. Join us as we dive deep into our personal journeys and what we have created for ourselves in order to better our lives. There will be live Q&A for the next 2 hours, so get your questions in. For those of you that don't know me, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. If you are new to this podcast, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share. Let's jump right in. I lost you guys. Here we go. We already have so many people jumping on live. I so appreciate you being here and supporting us where we are today on the Her Version platform. We have so many ladies here that are giving up a little bit of their time today to dive into this subject of self-love and holistic healing. It seems as though we can't escape these terms: self-love, self-care, holistic healing. These words have become huge buzzwords in the world of personal growth over the years, and they have been used to sell everything from retreats in the jungle to aromatherapy massage lotions. These terms are slowly losing their real definition of patience, compassion, and gentleness. What comes to mind when you think of authentic self-love? What does loving yourself actually look like in a holistic way? Are you using self-care as an excuse to overspend, or are you using self-love as an excuse to not grow as a person? That's an interesting one. Listen, we can drink green juice every day. We can see the best doctors, exercise, and get 8 hours of sleep each night. But if we don't practice self-love, it will be difficult to achieve complete wellness in our life. Practicing self-love is not always easy. Often our biggest enemy is living right between our ears. But if you make self-love a priority and a daily practice, you can achieve it. Today, we have a panel of women who have their own experiences to share with us regarding these topics. I would love to introduce all of them to you. Welcome, ladies. How is everyone doing today? Listen, I want you guys to introduce yourselves right off the bat. Before we actually dive into all of these awesome questions. And I'm going to start with Tina. I am going to ask you where you are from, or first, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? And why are you deciding to speak on this subject?
Okay, I guess I go first. I am
Yes.
Tina Kadish, and I am from Connecticut. And what I do is I'm a life purpose business coach, author, and speaker. I help women get out of the corporate world and into entrepreneurship, really finding their purpose, really living a life, loving what they do every day, really creating their destiny. And I'm just so passionate about that. Being a former corporate woman myself, I know the struggles of being in the corporate world. And now I'm an entrepreneur, helping other women really finding their passion is so important to me. And for me, self love and holistic healing, this is so important because for me, I have not loved myself for many years. And loving myself is so important. I will love others. I will take care of others as a mom, a wife, a daughter, a sister. I would love other people, but I never really take care of myself. And so when I saw this topic, it resonated with me because I think that all of us, we need to think of ourselves first. Because if we can't take care of ourselves, how can we take care of anybody else? Okay. And so that to me is passionate. So this is why I am so passionate about this topic, holistic healing, self love. And my question is, why is self-love so important? Like, why should we love ourselves?
1 second, Tina. We're going to get to the
Sorry.
questions in a little bit. Next, we're going to go to Tori. That's okay. To introduce who she is, where you are from, what you do, and why the subject.
Hi, I'm Tori Brame. I am living in Charleston, South Carolina, and I have a YouTube channel that talks about lupus, chronic illness, depression, and it's a wellness and mental health advocacy, basically. And this subject is so important to me because I attribute a lot of my success in achieving remission from lupus to self-care and mental health. And like a lot of my doctors were pretty surprised that I got better in the way that I did. So I'm excited to hear from everybody and talk about our journeys with it.
100%. Marie, you're up.
Hi, I'm Marie Martin. I'm from Morgantown, West Virginia. And I am a self-love coach and a certified Reiki master. So why I'm in this subject is all about holistic healing and definitely about self-love. And the main thing that I teach is T. So T stands for thoughts, E stands for environment, and A stands for action. And so all of those combined goes into self-love and how you can heal yourself from the inside out.
Absolutely. I love that. I just want to put notate to the 72 people that are jumping on live right now. Thank you so much for being here with us and hanging out with us. We're going to be on for 2 hours, so feel free to ask any questions. We're doing live QA today. Geeta, you're up. Who you are, where you are from, what you do, and why this subject.
Hi, everyone. My name is Geeta Dubey. I'm a former scientist, and now I'm a success mindset and strategic abundance mindset, along with that, emotional intelligence coach. Because I feel when we talk about self-love, it is, I think, equivalent to self-awareness, and that is equivalent to self-worth. There is so much depth in understanding those emotions about women, especially because I've seen most of my clients, they struggle even to understand what is self love. And I'm thoroughly passionate about it from the past 8 to 10 years. And that's how I became author, also writing about like what is really self love and why we need it, this day and age. Actually, not only women, I would say everybody. We have to include children and everyone because self love is a very interpreted kind of a word where people don't understand like is it self compassion or it is self love or it is something more. So today I'll be talking more about it and how we can all achieve some kind of self love with simply known as love yourself or loving someone else. Is it equal or not?
I love that. Thank you, Geeta. And I love that you're adding the children in there. Good for you. That's awesome. Jen, you're up. We can't hear you, Jen.
It's because I was double muted because my dog was barking. So you will hear him. Anyways, my name is Jen Massey. I live in Central Oregon, but am originally from the Northeast. So a lot of my ties come from New York, Pennsylvania area. But I am a certified mindset and empowerment coach, and I'm really passionate about empowering individuals, small business owners, and executives to achieve success on their terms. And I do that by helping them break through of all of the limitations that are holding them back. And a lot of times people think like, oh, external limitations, but most often it is the limitations within us. So I spend a lot of time working with my clients on self-love and taking them from doing and saying all the right things and actually embracing that. Because it's so easy to be like, oh, I do self-care and I know I'm smart, I know I'm pretty, I know I'm worth it, but we still let bad things happen to us. So really helping people understand who they are as their authentic being, falling in love with their core values, prioritizing their core values, and finally looking for self-worth and acknowledgement and acceptance from within, because everyone's always looking for that external validation. So I think this topic is super powerful because there's so many clients who it takes them so many sessions to all of a sudden be like, oh my God, I was the missing piece. It's like, yes, Finally. So yeah, super excited to share this space with all of you tonight. And hopefully I think I have a couple clients logging in, because it's also really important to know that you're not alone, right? Like, we can all say that we love ourselves, but let crap happen. So realizing that there's a community of people out there learning how to do it, right? So yeah, can't wait for this discussion.
I love that. Thank you, Jen. Thank you for being here. Jyoti, you're up. Jyoti is paused.
Okay, I was wondering if it's just my computer.
We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jyoti Dugar, and I am known as the Chaos Guru, and you'll probably find out why after you see everything that happens in my life. I am a cybersecurity leader for the past 20 years. I know you're probably wondering, what does that have to do with anything? But I'm also a wellness coach and an author, public speaker, written 3 books so far. And the reason I got into wellness was because how self-love and holistic healing actually helped save my life. I basically had 6 weeks to live after my 3rd baby was born. I am a mom of 3 kids as well, a single mom, that too. And the doctors basically told me I had no way of surviving unless I got multiple other surgeries. So at that point in time, I left everything aside, and I really wanted to use holistic, natural healing and find different modalities to heal myself, and also then get trained on these modalities, including Reiki, energy healing, EFT tapping, all kinds of other amazing modalities out there to help heal, to help other women and also men. And then since I was in the corporate technology world, I also noticed that there was so much burnout and stress and all kinds of ailments in that industry just because of the stress and pressure that leaders are put under. So I brought the holistic wellness world to the technology world. And I needed to break it down in terms of pieces that people can understand and relate to. So I just started calling it chaos, because when your body is not in alignment, in balance with itself, it goes into a state of chaos, just like your external situation. So once I started kind of just putting it into layman's terms, people started getting it. So I'm really passionate about bringing this to the forefront into worlds or areas that might not be so open to holistic healing and self-love and what they call the woo-woo world. So I'm trying to bridge that gap, and that I feel like is my true mission here.
That's great. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate that. And Melissa seems like she might still be frozen. Are you there, Melissa? Melissa's still a little bit frozen, so we're going to get back to her in a little bit. We are going to go ahead and start with the live QA. I want to thank everyone for being here. I also want to thank those of you that are already jumping on live and hanging out with us. Like I said, live QA for the next 2 hours. If you guys do have any questions that come to mind while we're speaking, feel free to chime into the comments, and you will have a possibility of your comment jumping up on screen and having us talk to you live. So I am going to start with Tina first. Reintroduce yourself a little bit and ask your question to the panel.
All right. I'm Tina Kadish, again, the life purpose business coach and author in Connecticut. And why this is important for me has been because I haven't loved myself for many years. And so I would like to ask everybody, why do you think self-love is so important, and how does it impact our life? Okay. Jen.
It's like, I'll go ahead and break that silence. It's always we all try to be so polite. So I'll just dive right in. So what is self-love and why is it so important?
Yes.
Thank you. I distracted myself in my talking. What is self-love? I think it goes so much deeper than words. And I think it is a true embracement. Is that a word? Embracing who you are at your authentic being, the strengths, the weaknesses, all of it, without belittling anything. So every emotion that we're feeling, every strength that we have, it's truly just embracing us for who we are in the present moment and knowing that we can grow. So I think that's how I approach what self-love is. And I think it's so important because we we're all that we have, right? So all those times where it's like, oh, the universe that has my back and all of this, like we are the universe. And we are the only ones who can vocalize what we need, understand what we want, fight for ourselves, stand up for ourselves, be able to vocalize everything and really protect our worth and protect our value. And if we can't love ourselves and embrace ourselves for who we are, then why are we doing the rest of the work? So
Yeah, I love that.
very deep first response. Why are we even here tonight if we cannot embrace that we are worth it?
I love that.
We are so worth it, and we're so worth it.
We are so worth it.
Yeah, and yet
I was gonna say, I was like you were like, there were so many years where I'm like, oh, I love myself. I'm the most confident person ever. And then I looked inside and I'm like, oh, I love this image of myself, but I never embraced myself for who I was until I did that work.
Exactly.
So awesome first question.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, go, Marie.
So for me, I always think of like speaking to yourself as you're like a child. Like, how would you speak to a child? Like, you wouldn't say all these nasty, horrible things to them. You wouldn't tell them they're a piece of crap or that they can't do it or anything like that. So you just have to kind of put yourself in that position again of being a child. And what would you say to that child? You wouldn't say some of the things that you're saying to yourself now. And that's where like the self-hate comes in, and you just have to embrace yourself, hug yourself energetically, and just enjoy who you are. And that is so important because and it also reminds me of the time with like the plants, like where someone yells at a plant and it dies, and then someone, speaks words of affirmation to a plant and it rises up and it flourishes. And that's the same thing that happens inside of our body. We're killing ourselves more physically.
Yeah, physically. I love what you said. Jyoti, and then Tori.
So I'm going to go a little bit against the grain here. And I wouldn't say against the grain. This is a different perspective that I just realized for myself lately is that, I started attracting different kinds of people into my life, just friends, whatever the case. And then I started noticing things about them that I didn't particularly like or agree with. And part of me was trying to figure out, this person's like that. And I started, I felt like there was a judgment coming from myself. And then, I got a download actually in the shower. I'm like, well, what part of me is attracting, because I saw the cycle, like, one by one, as I got to know them, there was something about them that I'm like, oh, it's the same kind of thing that happened again. And that's actually what brought me back to the self-love, to try to figure out like what part of me haven't I healed? Because I thought, okay, I've done all of this work healing and I should be completely healed by now with all my traumas and all the chaos that happened in my life. But I still get to, tend to keep attracting these kinds of people into my life. Not that they were bad people at all, but just situations that would happen. And it really made me have a different definition for self-love. It's like, well, it's not just loving yourself. It's also, loving what happens for you in life to kind of bring you back to your authentic self. And not blaming, the outside world, actually realizing that your outside world mimics your inside world. So, and that's what really helped me have more empathy and compassion for others. Just because I'm like, okay, there's parts of me that I haven't healed yet. And the more I do that, then that whole outside world changes. So it's just a different way. I just realized recently that I can look at self-love.
That's a good way to look at it. Go, Tori.
Josie, I'm so glad that you went before me because mine is very similar. I just think of it as like complete integration, and that is with yourself and also with your environment. And so it's like, if there's parts of yourself that are warring with each other, like that's all within your bubble. And so your bubble is getting, toxic and boiling or, rancid, like whatever it is. And then also with the outside world where it's like, you know, can I change anything about this? Can I change my perspective on it? Like, how can I integrate this situation? Is there some part of me that needs to leave in order for this to happen? Or do I need to remove myself from the situation? Or can I change something in the environment? Or can I just change my outlook on it to integrate it again? And I feel like that is the baseline of self-love, in my opinion, where it's just like that integration with yourself and your environment.
Yes, I could definitely test that. Go ahead, Geetha.
Yeah, I think both of them, you have touched the part of what I call as emotional intelligence. So when you're relating to the people outside or situation, or you're surrounding yourself, like Jyoti was mentioning, that why I keep repeating those patterns or those people, um, they could be termed as toxic environment or toxic people or anything you want to name it, from the negative connotation of it. But the self-love is something, um, you should understand. When you're with a little child, the child, they have no boundaries, they love themselves unconditionally, but they're reflecting on you so that you like them. Oh, it's such a beautiful child, it's such an adorable child. So the interaction between you and the outer world is so important. And that's what I think Jyoti and Tori and mentioning here. It's a part of emotional intelligence. What we have outside is exactly what is going on inside, but we need to change both. And if there is an integration of both parts of us which needs to be collided in such a way that there is no imbalance between them. So I think that is what self love is. It's not only you, it's everything outside you, and that comes under the category of under emotional intelligence, the self awareness, who you are, and that gives rise to your self value and self worth. So once you're able to self value yourself, that okay, I am a part of this community or anything, and I can take care of myself emotionally, physically, or mentally, then you are on the right track, and that's what the self worth in holistic with W looks like.
Love that. Hey, I want to just for a minute touch a little deeper on that sentence that you said about how children love themselves unconditionally. Do
Mhm.
you, Geeta, have a little bit more tidbit to share on that? And does anybody else have any information to share on that
See, when
subject?
you see, when you see any child under 7 years of age, right? You go to them, you speak to them, you would find they are in such a kind of subconscious mind is awakened, and the way they act out is that they love everything. You give them a candy, they would love it. You give them a sour candy, they would love it, because they are non-judgmental and they're just loving it for the sake of it. Similarly, when you interact with them, anybody who's like that, which is also known as a part of a self-love, how would you react? You will automatically would be, embracing their self-love or loving whatever the persona they are showing it to you. Up to 12 years of age, 12 years of that age, that starts to diminish, and 12 and beyond, it really diminishes to an extent what we become as an adult. So these are the understandings we need to have, that why we are letting go of our self-love, which literally means not only loving ourselves but the whole environment around us, and the integration of the both. So you say, oh, I don't love that person, but then, like Tori was mentioning or Jyoti was mentioning, why I don't like that person. You need to find out that, because that's a reflection of you, which is going something within your mind and body and subconscious mind.
Does anybody have any experiences with that as far as at 12 years? Go ahead, Jen.
So I wanted to add color because those ages are super important.
Yeah.
Our conscious brain forms between the ages of 7 and 10. So before the age of 7, we don't have a conscious brain. Everything that happens to us is just in our subconscious. So it's just, if something good happens to us, great, we celebrate it. If something bad happens to us, great, we just move on. Between the ages of 7 and 10, our conscious brain forms, which means we start to associate things happening to us with good or bad and love. Especially that's when we look to our parents, our peers, our grandparents, whoever is raising us, we look to them for love and acceptance and belonging. So around the time that our conscious brain forms, something happens, we all of a sudden are like, what's wrong with me? The people who are raising me, obviously there's nothing wrong with them because we look at them for love and safety. So it must be us that's broken. So we start to change our behaviors. So what's really interesting is when you start to look at your self-love journey and start to understand, like, when did that shift happen? Go back to the ages of 7 to 10, 7 to 12, and start to look at, it doesn't even have to be traumatic, but look at what happened in your life and the messages that you were being given, because that is what is underlying that inner critic, your gremlin message that says, I'm not good enough. So I know, like, for me personally, my brother and I rode our bikes down and traded in his bike. I was 8 when this happened. He's older than me. I was the one that got in trouble. I was the one that was just like, you should have known better. So my lack of self-love message my whole life was, I make bad choices. And that's how it manifested for me. So it's like those ages that Geeta called out are super important, because that's when your conscious brain forms.
Conscious brain. I love
Can
that.
I add
Wow.
just a little bit over here? Like what Jenny was saying, not necessarily they have to be traumatic. Please understand that this is a stigma. Not all your experiences, like I just want to emphasize on that over here. None of them needs to be traumatic. There could be good experiences as well, but the way you perceived it could be in a different way.
Yeah. My
Does that
parents
make
don't
sense? As
even
a child.
remember. My parents do not even remember yelling at me or that bike exchange, but I perceived it as like this terrible thing. And they're like, what? You guys did what? I'm like, yeah, don't you remember? We hid it in the garage for 2 weeks. Like, it was not a traumatic thing. It was just, I embraced it as like, oh my God, they don't love me. I must be broken. Like, and I spiraled it. So absolutely, it does not. And I would almost say the traumatic stuff, many people have already probably worked through and worked with a therapist on. So it's really the not traumatic stuff, the everyday minutia that usually triggers that. Thank you, Geeta, for calling that out.
Wow, that actually really helps us look at our lives a little bit differently, because a lot of times, we have already worked so much on the big stuff, and then they're like, why are we still harboring this thing? So maybe going back and really analyzing some of those smaller memories that we might be hanging on to, that maybe we have that word.
It's just buried.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. You're the best. Tina, that was awesome.
Thank you. Great conversation. Thanks, Jen, for bringing that up. Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yes, great opening question. I'm going to hand the mic to Tori. Reintroduce yourself and give us your question.
I'm Tori Brain, and Charleston, South Carolina, have a YouTube channel. So my question is, I actually don't have the answer to this. Like, I don't know. So I'm genuinely asking. I feel like there are 2 schools of thought with people who preach self-love. One is there are high vibration emotions and there are low vibration emotions. And so you need to try to steer clear of the low vibration, like, anger, jealousy, all that stuff. And then, lean more towards the hope, excitement, love, all that stuff. And then there is also the other school of thought, which is you need to accept everything, and emotions are just part of the human experience. And the more you accept them, the better it's going to be. And so I feel like the downside of both, the accept everything, is people who are like justifying their anger and justifying not getting out of it. And then the downside to people being like, no, high vibration is they never really process things because they're just trying to be happy all the time. And it's like almost a toxic positivity where it's like, why would you ever be sad? Like, sad is bad. So I genuinely want to know, where do you guys stand on that? Why do you stand there? What are your thoughts on it? Marie, and then Jyoti.
I'm definitely on the side of embracing all emotions. I like the thought of going with the emotional chart. And, if you're at the bottom, try to be the next one up. Like, don't try to be super positive, empowerment, like, oh, I'm so excited and happy all the fucking time. Like, don't go from the bottom to the top, because that's not going to work. And you're not going to be happy. And people are going to know. So just try to be a little up, a little bit just here and there, just try to get a little better every day, but just embrace it and know that it's a journey to get to the top, and you don't have to be there today.
I love it. Awesome. Josie.
So I feel like we're twins or something. 'Cause I mean, I have gone through both ranges. I did have a pretty traumatic childhood. It was like life and death every day. It was basically just trying to survive it. So once I did that and got out of it, it was almost kind of like anything could happen to me from that point onwards, and it was a great day because I'm like, hey, I survived that. Like nothing can beat that. So anything that happened in my life so far, somebody could have died that was really close to me, and then I would allow myself to process the emotions. But like you were saying, I kind of felt like, oh, I have to do this fast. I have to get back to my high vibrational, like happy-go-lucky state. And I thought that was kind of normal because I'm like, okay, I've processed it, I've moved on, and then now I'm like happy again. But I would do that fairly quickly, and so I started getting labeled as just someone that was in denial, or you can't be that happy all the time. Like you must just be pretending. Or it was also kind of annoying to others who weren't in a high vibrational state, or as optimistic and happy-go-lucky as I was. And I realized that, oh, well, by me just being, and that is who I am naturally, like I am able to kind of process things and deal with all the pretty quickly. But I noticed that for me to actually be there to help other people, I really had to feel their state and not try to rush them into like this highly elevated state if they're way down, like the downward spiral. And part of what I learned through my own healing, but to answer your question, was the emotional guidance scale that I think the book Ask and It's Given, which is a great book to read. And she teaches how like there's all these different levels, upward and downward. And it is impossible to jump from like a low vibrational state really quickly to a high vibrational state. You could, but then you're just going to crash even farther down. So what I started doing was the way to kind of help me with that, because I felt like I had to do that too, especially just being a happy-go-lucky person, was just to aim for like the next state, just for a period of time. And, and if that next state might be like, you might go from anger, like you said, to worry. and people are like, well, why would you want to be in a state of worry? I'm like, well, it's better than being angry. And you're not going to stay in that state. So it's just I taught, my belief system was, just keep moving through each state without feeling guilty about, okay, I am in a state of worry right now. So let me just process, let me just allow myself to feel that, but then just keep moving through, and then one step at a time until you are able to reach like a higher vibrational state. And going back to what Geeta was saying in the other question, you'll notice that as you kind of navigate yourself higher and higher through every state, your environment also changes. Like the people might change. So if you are constantly interacting with people who are kind of addicted to those lower states, and they like to be there because that's what they're used to, and you met them probably when you were also in that low vibrational state. But as you kind of elevate yourself and move up, they might not be joining you moving up because they are used to staying in that low vibrational state. So I had to allow myself to be okay with that and understand that not everyone's going to move at the same pace as you, and it's okay to leave them where they are, not try to fix them per se.
I love that because it gives you freedom. Oh,
no, go ahead.
Well, it gives you freedom to like allow yourself to grow. You don't feel like you have to wait for the other people. I love that. Jen, and then Tina.
Awesome. What's really interesting is like I resonate with what both Marie and Jyoti are saying, because I'm definitely in the feel everything camp. I firmly believe that if we don't give ourselves permission to feel the low emotions, we also are not giving ourselves permission to feel the high emotions. But I'm in the camp of whatever you're feeling, embrace it and accept it and sit with it. Don't try to level up. Don't try to go to the next one. Just sit with it. and embrace it and honor it for what it is, and maybe do some digging if you're in the space to do the digging to understand, like, why do I feel this way, and get to that place of understanding. And then when you're ready, make the conscious choice. Where do I want to go? But the moment, really, until we can accept our emotions and until we can truly embrace them for what they are at the level that they are, we're going to be fighting it and it's going to drain us. So we have to be able to feel them all and feel them all, but really embrace it. And those tools like the mood meter, the emotion wheel are super helpful. Brene Brown did a study. If you guys don't know who Brene Brown is, Google her. She's amazing. But she did a study, and the mean number of emotions that people know are 3: happy, sad, and pissed. But if you look at positivepsychology.com, the human can feel 34,000 emotions. So we can feel, I don't know what that percent is, but it's like 0.00000001 something, probably more zeros. So it's like giving ourselves permission to use these tools to actually label and understand and recognize what's going on within us so we can accept it and then consciously choose where we want to go from there. So like kind of the same camp, but also like just sit. Don't rush. Just, if you're angry, be angry. If you're worried, be worried. But it was interesting because I'm like, yes, I don't know. How do I fit into you two? But, and then Tina.
I actually used to have a therapist who said, I moved. So that's why I stopped going to her. I would go to her for the rest of my life if I could. But she said, whenever you start feeling like an emotion, feel it for the next 10 minutes. Like you have to, like set a timer. If you're angry, if you're sad, feel it for 10 minutes because you can't. You literally can't. You get bored. You get bored feeling mad. You get bored feeling sad. You get bored crying. I literally cannot cry for 10 minutes. And the only way I can cry for 10 minutes is if I try to stop crying. Then I'm like still crying. Anyway, Tina.
So I love what you said, Jen, about this is something that I would always mask my feelings. And I think feeling your feelings is so important. If you're worried, it's okay to worry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. I would always fight being angry or fight being worried. And I'd always think, got to be happy. It's going to be better. But I was, not being my authentic self. It's okay to be in that emotion. So that's something that over the years I've had to learn to feel your feelings. It's okay. Honor it. Whatever you got to do to, okay, why are you feeling this way? Journal it. Whatever you got to do to get it out. Don't stay in it. Don't always stay in the worrying and the sad and the anger because it's going to eat at you or nothing's going to get accomplished. But you can't always be happy that everything's great when it really isn't. Yeah. And if you're not feeling it, don't fake it.
Yeah.
So don't fake it. Got to be your authentic self.
Geeta?
All right. So I'm little different on this one because I don't want people to accept your feelings. There's a difference what you accept and what you embrace. What all of you, I think, what we are talking about is embracing is like when you embrace them, like somebody's worried, okay, let them be worried for a while. If somebody wants to cry, cry. But when you accept that, so then in your mind, you are giving a permission that it's okay to feel worried, it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to do whatever you want to do with the feelings. So rather than accepting them, if you embrace them, that is more powerful because let's say if you're crying, you're feeling sad, it's okay to cry, it's okay to feel sad. But when you say, I accept it, that means you're giving permission to yourself, like, okay, that's fine if I get sad again. It's okay. So there'll be a long journey for you to overcome that. So I think more so accepting the situation, rather embracing is more like you within, like I said, embracing is more with the nurturing of your mind and your soul, right? When you embrace something, you open up your heart. Okay, that's fine if it's going, whatever I'm going through. That's the power of embrace. And that's the power of the word over there. So that was just my little bit of understanding of acceptance and embracing of even the words are very powerful here.
Can
So
a person
oh.
go ahead?
I'm having trouble seeing what would the self-talk be for embracing versus
you.
accepting?
Thank you.
Yeah, the self-talk would be just, I want to embrace these feelings. Let's say you're feeling sad, right? So when you say sad, so when you say think of a word embrace in your mind, what does come to you? If I may ask
Hug.
you, Toby?
Yeah,
Hug, right? Everybody? Right.
like envelop it. Like,
And yeah, so you are not feeling, you're feeling protected. You're feeling, all right, this is my feeling, but I have to go through, and you don't feel overwhelmed, right? When I say, Tori, I'll give you a hug and just go through with your emotions, how would you feel?
a lot better.
Right. So that's the difference. But when I say I'm accepting it altogether, so you're giving yourself a permission. It's okay to feel sad all the time, right? See the difference what I'm trying to
Yeah, it's less
create?
personal. It's like,
Less
I accept
personal
this.
and
I'm not
yeah,
going to fight
less
this
negative. Right.
versus I love this.
Love. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you feel protected and you feel opened up. You can talk about it, and you might cry a little more longer than what you were saying, what your therapist had told you earlier. That's the difference between these two words.
I love that.
Absolutely. That's
Sabrina,
great.
Victoria, did you want?
Powerful.
Oh, sorry. go ahead.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask the same question you asked, so thank you for that. I want to say I'm understanding everything. I'm not arguing with anybody. But I'm also kind of stuck in my own process. I related a little bit to what Jen said as far as giving yourself permission. If you don't give yourself permission to be low, then you can't give yourself permission to be high. And what's so interesting about this is I could also relate to Jyoti and the fact that I pull myself out of things very quickly. And I've actually really embraced that about myself as far as like giving myself kudos for being able to do that. But I don't allow myself to go low. And I also don't allow myself to go high. But like, is that bad? Because my whole thought process is I'm trying to build something. Like I'm actually trying to build something. And for me, I view sitting in the high as like allowing myself to rest and enjoy and pause versus building upon the momentum of. So where does that sit? Like, I don't want to say like doing it wrong because that's kind of like a negative connotation, but is there a way that I should be doing it other than, like, is there another step that I'm missing somewhere?
So I think the real question is, do you lose momentum and burn out if you don't sit on a plateau for a minute?
Do I lose? I feel as if I do, but that's a feeling. So do I
think
actually?
the question is
I don't
why.
know. Why?
I
what?
think the question, why do you choose the emotions that you choose? And is it a numbing behavior that you're foreboding joy and you're not allowing yourself to feel the highs because you're afraid that if you feel high, you'll be stunting that growth and like potentially like, oh my God, if I celebrate now, where am I? So are you foreboding joy and numbing yourself by keeping yourself in this narrow pathway? Or are you consciously choosing to stay in it? So it's like, is it a vulnerability thing? So I think you have to do some of that inner work.
I don't know if I know how to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I know how to give myself, ooh, this is like bringing up emotion for me. I don't know if I know how to sorry, this is me trying to not cry. Sit in the process of feeling good about something that I accomplished.
Self-celebration is one of the hardest things we have to learn.
So that's interesting.
Right. So are you afraid of self-celebration?
I don't want to say I'm afraid of it. I like don't feel, I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of it. I don't feel as if there's time for it.
Okay.
Like, and I also don't take time to be sad though. So it's not like I'm in a lull, but I stay focused. Like I'm just a very focused person. So I'm always like next,
Okay.
next. But I don't feel as if I am until you guys are talking now and I'm like digesting and taking notes and understanding. I don't feel as if I am doing anything that's hurting me. So is it okay if I don't feel like burnt out? I don't feel burnt out.
So I relate to this so hard because I'm the same way. Like people are like, like go celebrate, like go blow off some steam, like go have a great night or something.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me happy. What makes me happy is that flow state that I get into where I'm feeling the momentum. I feel like I'm doing something and everything. So I had to embrace that about myself, that I don't feel joy like other people do, which is, hanging out with friends. I'm like terribly introverted. And, it's like I feel that flow state when I'm like doing something, like that's my top.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's okay. I mean, it's okay for me. Like I love that. And I've had to embrace that about myself when I don't, like I do have times where I sit in bliss, but it's usually like while I'm doing stuff, like I'm just like, that's my top.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine.
I know. People say celebrate. People say celebrate when you do, and I don't really celebrate. I just keep going. And you're right, Sabrina. I just keep going. Okay, this is good. Like, when I launched my first book, everybody was saying, did you celebrate? I'm like, no, I wrote a book. It's out there. And now on to continue life.
Yeah. Same.
I was happy, but I didn't really like, whoa, like I have a friend of mine, she goes out and gets the champagne and she celebrates. I'm like, I'm happy. I'm happy. Okay. On to the next.
Yeah.
Like I'm coming out with my second book, and I think that my second book is going to give me a more of a feeling of fulfillment. Perhaps. I don't know, but I hear what you're saying. I'm not in that, whoa, I'm so excited right now.
So I guess
you guys celebrate.
So I guess the question is there something that like Tori and Tina and I and whoever else is relating to this that's listening or here should take a moment to reconsider? Is there something that we're missing that we should, not like you have to, but like that we should reconsider?
So Sabrina, I had a question for you on that. Do you feel like there's a fear of success in a way?
No,
that
I have no fear of success. I am going to succeed.
Celebrating your successes, do you feel like if you celebrate it and get on that high, that where there's a high, there might be a low afterwards? Like
I feel like the reason I'm not celebrating my success is because to me it's a step, it's not a success. Because my vision is so enormous that to somebody else they're like, holy shit, fuck, good for you. And I'm like, dude, that's just an itty bitty minor step in this enormous vision that I'm creating for us. So I don't, but maybe that's my excuse. I don't know. Yeah. But that's the way that I'm seeing it in my head.
Yeah. So can I chime in? I'm like really biting my tongue here because this is my passion topic is success and self-celebration. And I think it comes down to there is no right and wrong. There just is. So where you are in your journey, how you choose to celebrate and build yourself up, there is like, yes, some people go get the bubblies. Some people just go on to the next thing. But I am a firm believer, and I think, Sabrina, to your point, is like, should we step back and reevaluate? I would encourage you to step back and evaluate your definition of success, because I am a firm believer that success should be something that can be achieved and lived right now in the current moment, and something that you can continue to set goals to achieve in the future. Success is not a stepping stone. Success is right here and right now. So what you're building is a goal. So the vision grounds you in the today. So what are the feelings and emotions and everything that you want to achieve with that big goal? And how can you love and embrace that here as you continue to make progress?
So sit and think about what my definition of success is, and then what?
Set goals to
And I
achieve.
think, yeah, and I think I'll add to that what Jen is saying. Jen is saying that not only success, what is your definition of celebration as well?
Right.
Mhm.
You have to understand that you have to celebrate everything about you.
Mhm. You are
And
not a stepping stone.
right. And it's very important. I celebrate every small thing in my house as well. That's how I developed the technique just to celebrate everything. Even if I buy something, it's not, you don't have to jump around, you don't have to make a big deal out of it, but you have to actually, again, the word is like you have to see that you've done something for yourself, whether it's a small or a big. Any successes in your life, you must know how to celebrate. Start defining your celebration. Sabrina's celebration is what? Does she like to sit by herself? Does she like to just go out with friends? Would she like to be with her family, with kids, whatever it is your definition? And please to enjoy every moment of it, every moment of successes you have. It should not be your career, it should be anything in your life. It could be a relationship, it could be your money, it could be anything you think of.
Mhm. And it could just be acknowledgement of it as
It's just an
well.
acknowledgement. Yeah.
Like, I think a celebration journal is huge, and it's just writing down one thing a day you're proud of yourself for.
Right.
So
And
that's
that's,
how
I
you
think,
can celebrate your little things. And it's like,
right.
Sabrina, like you are building something huge. So every day it's like,
Yeah.
today I hosted a podcast that, really empowered other women. Write it
Mhm.
down. You're proud of yourself. Move on to the next thing. But then you can look
Correct.
back one day and be like, look at everything I did and how far I have come.
In fact, when you
And
do
also, it does.
do you do your gratitude, Sabrina? Do you write something for your gratitude?
Not
Okay.
methodically, no.
Okay, so once in a while, if you do that, you would see that celebrating feelings or some of those emotions will come out. I went out with my friends, I bought a new dress or something, which is your definition of success. So those little things are very important, and especially as you go higher, what you have a bigger vision for yourself, a bigger goal for yourself, and for the community, you have to have that groundedness and at the celebration both in balance when you go up and up and up the ladder. Does it
Yeah,
make
I
sense?
like the idea of a celebration journal. I appreciate that. And the thing that I like about that, which is my business mind, is being able to like go back and
Right.
like, see the visual of that.
Mhm.
I do keep a lot of things written down. For instance, like every single one of your names in order is written in a journal with the date
Mhm.
and like what we talked about. So there's over 100 names now in my journal, to
Mhm.
kind of be able to keep track and visually see the
Mhm.
accomplishment that's taking place.
Mhm.
So that's something that I can embrace. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Just one more thing about like the celebration journal and celebrating small things as we continue to build and grow. The better we become at acknowledging ourselves for the smallest things. When I started keeping mine, I was like, I'm proud of myself for rinsing my dish and putting it in the dishwasher because that was something I had never done. It drove my husband crazy. So, like little things like that. But the better we get at celebrating our successes throughout our journey, the easier it is for us to accept compliments, for us to stand up and fight for ourselves, for us to acknowledge our self worth. So, if you're in the corporate world, like you can go and ask for that raise and fight for yourself and stand up for yourself because you know you're worth it because you practice every day saying like, I am worth it. I am proud of myself. I did this today. I am worth celebrating because. So it really strengthens that self-positivity and self-love muscle that we're all here to learn how to do.
Yeah.
And
I
also, if I could
appreciate
add to Jen, in addition to celebrating yourself, just celebrate even small things that happen to you or for you in the house. Like I celebrate if I can't find the ketchup, and and I turn around, it's like right on the counter. I'm like, yes, I found the ketchup. This is amazing because maybe otherwise, like I gotta go run to the store now because all three of my kids like, where's the ketchup? We can't eat fries without the ketchup. And then they're like, oh, and I just turn around like, oh, it's right there, yay! And then, but little by little, like things start happening like that. Like the remote control doesn't work, and then you're like, oh, the remote control's not working, and then I'm just like, universe, please get it to work, and then it starts. We're like, yes, it worked. I'm gonna celebrate this. Like the more you do that, like the more little things kind of just you feel like it's random, but it's really not. So I feel like it doesn't, if you, because I've gone through the struggle, like, well, there's nothing to celebrate today because I didn't do anything great. But, well, I woke up and I'm alive, and so are my kids. That's something to celebrate.
A+ on that one.
And just
I love it.
It's sunny outside. The sun came out because God knows, like when you're on vacation and the sun does not come out and it's raining, you are not going to be happy. So, it might be easier sometimes if you just want to get started, just to choose every little thing to celebrate. You have a house, you have this, you found the ketchup, like the keys work today, your car didn't, stop in the middle of the road. I think if you look for it, you'll find millions of things to celebrate.
Totally. I appreciate that for sure. That was great. We're going to pass the mic over to Marie.
Hello, my name is Marie again. And my question, what helped me at the beginning of my journey was learning about extra sensitive or empath. And so I want to know your guys' take on that. Do you see there are differences, similarities? Do you think it's the same thing? What's your definition of them? Anyone?
I feel like they're the same thing.
Tori?
I probably have a different perspective than most people. I feel like it's an excuse for having low boundaries. I feel like we are all humans, and as females, we are very sensitive to other people's emotions and, the energies in the world. And I fully believe in astrology. And so, solar flares or where the moon is or your own personal chart, I think that has a big emphasis on you. But I feel like I know a lot of codependent people, specifically women, who are like, oh, well, I'm an empath, so this is why I'm in everybody's business. Or I'm an extra sensitive person or something like that. And I'm like, well, then you need to take extra good care of yourself, because if that's true, you need to set up those boundaries and make sure that you are good to go. So there's my super cynical take on empaths.
I know a few empaths. Yes.
I cry on a dime. For those of you that have been on a podcast with me, I probably cried in probably a third of the podcasts that I've been on, and probably 10 to 15 out of the 100, over 100, I ugly cried, couldn't breathe for 4 minutes straight, just silence of ridiculousness, because I'm live. And I blame that on the fact that I'm overly sensitive. I just can't, I can't control it. I think. I don't know. Jen, sorry. Who's Marie? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Gita also had your hand up. So do you want to jump in first?
All right. Thanks. I think I somewhat agree with Tori, because when you say you are sensitive, that means you have not worked, especially on your boundaries and the grounding of yourself. See, people who are very sensitive, I keep telling them, if you want to talk from the metaphysical point of view, we have 7 chakras in our body, right? I'm sure everybody's familiar with them, right? So there's a root chakra, there's a sacral chakra, then after that there's a solar plexus chakra, then there's a heart chakra, then the throat, then the third eye, eyebrow chakra, and the crown chakra. So people, when they are sensitive, what my experience has been, when they come to me and say something like I'm an empath or I'm a very sensitive person, I ask them, they lack the grounding force in them. What does that mean? That literally means the lower 3 chakras, which are root chakra, muladhara chakra, the sacral chakra, the sudhisthana chakra, and the solar plexus, which is manipura chakras, they are underactive. So they are not doing their things, the livelihood of them from those 3 chakras, which literally mean that you are grounded, you are confident, and you're creative. The literal meaning of those 3 chakras. They are doing all of their livelihood through the upper 3 chakras, which are kind of associated with the higher consciousness. That's as they put it, as the people who come with the empath abilities. And I tell them there's nothing wrong with anything, there's nothing right or wrong with you. You just need to ground yourself more. And you must need to know what are your right boundaries, so much so that you should have a boundaries with your own children as well. That might sound a little bit different, but that's what it is, because they have not learned what they have embraced so far, just being a mother and giving, giving, giving. So law of giving and receiving says that it has to be in the balance, right? When you give something, it could be love, it could be materialistic thing, and what you take something from anyone. So it's an energetic bond you're forming with anybody. So it literally means that it can be worked on, it can be definitely changed. Number, that's the best news about it, that nothing is wrong with you. You're too good. You have not understood how you can, basically metaphysically get those underperforming chakras in your favor and become more worldly and do whatever you need to do it over here. So that's a very scientific reasoning. I mean, yet scientific and metaphysical together here. So that's why I explain from the point of view of chakras. But if you think from scientific point of view, being a scientist myself, this is what I tell. Like, it means that boundaries are not set right. If you just want to put it scientifically, that's why you're facing all these issues in your life.
Yes.
So there's both answers, metaphysical and scientific for you. Yeah,
Thank you, Geeta.
you're welcome.
Jen?
Interesting.
So, what's really interesting is at first when I was like, I'll let everyone else talk about this one because I don't really know where. I think I knew where I weighed in, and then Tori, once you spoke, I was like, oh, you know what? I do have an opinion on this. I do have. When does Jen not have an opinion on something?
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is I had to teach myself how to feel emotions. So I think there are people who are feelers. I think there are people that live in their heart and feel their emotions very easily. And Tori, to your point, those are the ones that have to really set boundaries to protect those emotions because you feel openly and honestly. And that's great. That is a superpower. I was raised to not show emotion. So everything was behind a brick wall. Unless I am watching a commercial about someone from the military coming home or a Disney movie, I am not going to cry. I did not cry on my wedding day. Like, I am not one who shows my emotions. And I used to think I don't feel, but that's not true. I'm a human. I feel. So I think there are people who feel very easily, and then there are people who don't. And I think when it comes to empaths and being oversensitive, I think there's a difference. Marie, back to your original question. There are people who are overfeelers and those who are underfeelers. And empathy is the ability to recognize emotions in others and yourselves. So whether you are an underfeeler or an overfeeler, you still need to have the language of emotion.
Love that.
So I think, because I was like, well, I'm not oversensitive, but I'm like, but I also have had to learn emotion. And as a coach, I have had to learn to be very comfortable with feelers because I used to be the person like, oh crap, you're crying. Do you need a tissue? Like, how do I stop this? And I'm like, that's part of the process. It's not part of my process, but that is part of their process. So how do we empathetically realize that they are processing something and feeling something and let them feel as long as they need to feel so that we can then move on together? So that is where I weigh in, that they're different.
They're different.
That was good. That was good.
Jothy?
So as Jen was speaking, I actually have a question now. Because Jen, I think like you, I grew up because of my childhood and pretty much taught myself how to not feel as well. Because if I felt, it would just be much worse. And I used to think there was something wrong with me as well. I'm like, okay, I don't feel any emotion, but I'm good to go. Like, 'cause I just feel happy all the time, so I'm great. But then I started to realize that I was an empath when I could feel other people's emotions. Kind of like I understood what they were going through because I suddenly felt different. Like if they were kind of low vibing, I suddenly I would kind of take on their energy. So I'd feel like I wouldn't feel their emotions, but I would feel their energy.
Yeah.
And then I would allow that, like Tori was saying, because I didn't know how to set boundaries energetically back then, to affect me. And I'd be like, oh, why do I feel so bad? And I was great this morning, but then I went to meet a friend and now I just suddenly feel so low. And then I started kind of going down the spiral to like, oh yeah, life is not great. Oh, this sucks and that sucks. I'm like, wait, what's happening to me? And it took me a while to kind of get myself back up to my normal high vibrational state. And I wouldn't really connect the two together until it started recurring, like I said before, where I would meet that same person again, and I would automatically get to a low vibe. So I feel like, is there a difference between, or is this between feeling emotions and feeling energy from another person?
So I was going to say, I'm a certified energy leadership coach. That's actually what my training is in. So I firmly believe that we lead with our energy. Everybody is a leader every day. We are telling people how to react and respond to us with our energy. And without bogging down in any of the details, there's two types of energy. There's anabolic, which is that super high vibe, Josie, that like you like to be in, that high vibration. And there's catabolic energy, which is the stress reaction. So the fight, flight, or freeze. Whew, the F's. And catabolic energy is so super strong. And if somebody is coming to you with a stress reaction, especially as an empath, you are going to take that on. So the boundary you have to set is, if somebody else is feeling stressed, it's what do you need to do so that you can empathize and meet them where they are, but not attract and internalize that energy. There is energy is a portion of emotion. It is one element, or sorry, emotion is one element of energy. So yes, feeling energy is huge. And we typically feel other people's energy before we feel their emotions because we don't have the emotion language.
Yes.
So that's my little snippet.
Oh, thank you.
Ina, did you have a take on this?
No, I just taking on the energy of someone. My daughter was an empath, and I would always say, why are you taking on this other person's feelings? Like, it's not your problem. I would say this, it's not your feeling. Like, why are you taking it on? But it would affect her. So she was taking on other people's energy and making it her own. And it affected her because she didn't create the boundary. She decided to take it on. So I think it's so important that we empathize with them, but not take on and make it our own and internalize it and make it affect our overall well-being, our day, and we just take it on as if it's us. It's not us, it's them, but we empathize. We don't want to just say, I don't really care what they're going through. It's okay. It's not my problem.
So there's a lot of females in and about inside the Her Version community. I know that because I brought majority of them in because of my narcissistic past. So a lot of them do label themselves as codependents and empaths, just as, I don't want to say I identify as that anymore. However, I'm a feeler 100%. My question is, just to kind of summarize all of this, what should we be doing I know Gita mentioned the chakras, grounding. I'm going to do some research on that. Is there anything else that we should be doing in order to kind of grab a hold or feel more powerful in our space without losing control, as we do sometimes with our emotions?
You can go outside, ground yourself that way, bare feet through the earth. A lot of energy comes from Mother Earth. So just being around plants, definitely bringing plants into your home, being close to you. Any kind of water feature that you could bring into your home. Water is a huge conductor of also grounding. You can ask, please ground me. There's lots of things that you can do. Anyone else?
Tori?
When you're like reading or something, you see the phrase, he steeled himself. I think of that all the time when I'm walking into an interaction. It's like I take, because I've struggled with this in my life, and then somebody labeled me empath at one point, and I was just like, what is that? And then now I don't identify as that, because it's like I'm so clear what is my energy and what is somebody else's energy, and just because I can sense it and feel it does not mean I take any of it on. And so what I do, like if I'm going into a situation, we all have those people in our life that like burst through that bubble. Usually it's family or something where it's like, it doesn't matter how much you prepare, like they just get in. So it's like, if you take stock of exactly who you are, exactly what energy you're walking into an environment with, and then you try to maintain that, and then walking back out, you take stock again. You're just like, okay, where am I now? And then reach that place that you were walking into it again. And it takes practice. Like there's sometimes you walk into a situation and then you walk back out of it and you kind of take note again, and you're just like, whoa, like I took on a lot of their energy. I need to get rid of this.
Yeah. So
And
especially
showers.
in this space,
Showers wash it away. Go ahead.
that's a good one, actually. In this space, holding these podcasts, sometimes they're very heavy, like really freaking heavy. And I get triggered often. And I'm actually proud of myself for holding space and learning to hold space over this year more than I ever thought I would be capable of doing. Like if you look at my first 30 podcasts compared to, the next, whatever that is, 80, 90, I don't know what number I'm at right now. There's a huge difference. However, there's still, I don't want to say in telling my own story, because that's not true either, but there's still times you guys just saw it. You guys literally just saw it like 30 minutes ago, of when something inside of me gets hit.
Triggers.
Yeah. And it takes a second for me to be able to grab myself again. Is that a lack of grounding? Like why am I doing that? It happens all the time.
Mhm.
Like several times a week.
Yeah.
Not daily, several times a week.
Because you're a feeler, it's
Mhm.
going to happen. And it's going to happen for everyone. I think when I first heard your question about like what can we do, I think it's continuing to give ourselves permission to understand, why was I triggered there? What got me? And really continue to do the work, because there's always layers that we're unbuilding, and recognizing we might not be able to do it in the moment, right? Like this is a live podcast. You had to get your crap together and continue this conversation, but also later take time to go back and watch the recording and be like, what was said? And try to get back into it in a safe space, in a safe way to journal about or continue to reflect on, what is it that is still triggering me? And what boundary do I have to set? Or what do I have to tell myself? Like, what do I have to do to minimize the impact of that trigger next time? Because the triggers will always happen. It's our response to it. So it's really just taking the time, again, giving ourselves permission to feel and giving ourselves time to understand it in a safe way. So if that's by yourself, in a journal, with a therapist, depending on the severity, like find that support system that you need and dig in a little bit deeper to understand, what was it? Why did it happen? And what do I have to do to prevent the severity of it next time?
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Marie. That was awesome. I so appreciate you. We're moving on to Geeta. A little bit about yourself and your question.
All right. Before, I wanted to answer what you had asked, one of the simplest things you could do, Sabrina, is put an intention when you go to a podcast. One of the simplest thing anybody could do, because your words have power. It's as simple as that. You say, all right, this podcast is going to be good. I will not be absorbing anybody else's emotions. It's as simple as that.
I love that.
Yeah, because your words have frequencies, the vibrations, they travel fast. So you can just do that. I will not be absorbing. I'll be in my own power, or I want my power back to myself. You can use any of these sentences. I don't want to give my power to anybody else. So when you're crying or when you're sensitive, usually what happens that you are uh, fragmenting outside your powers to someone else. You're giving your fragments of yourself to someone. So it's simply saying, I want my fragments back to me. I don't want to give my power outside to anybody. That's it.
Wow.
Just pure, simple intentions. The second thing I wanted to advise to everyone, which is the simplest thing to do, you do every day you take shower. Whenever you think the water is pouring on you, just feel that you are protected and you're shielded well.
Love that.
That's it. First thing in the morning when you go out,
I love
especially who are empaths, who are highly sensitive people. So you can say whenever you take a shower that whatever water is pouring on me right now, it's cleaning me, it's clearing me, and it's protecting me and giving me shield. That's it.
I love that. Thank you.
The
Like that.
rest things will be taken care of. The third method you could use is, I don't know how many of have you heard of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method? Yeah, a
Right.
lot of people use that. So
Mm.
right now, Sabrina, as you were in that state of mind that happened, you can use any of those 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 methods, like where you see immediately you can put your mind back to, oh, I need to see 5 things, or you can say, I want to feel 4 things, I need to like 3, I need to hear something, what let's say Tina is saying. So you become try to become more alert. This is also known as the power of mind. You switch yourself from one state to another. Just any one of those things is good. You say, okay, I need to hear what Marie is saying, immediately switch your mind. When you're about to go into that state, just come back out of it.
Mm.
Yeah. And that is one thing that I'm good at. I am good at flipping, as you saw also. Like
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
I just need a moment and then I can
Yeah.
yank myself right out of it.
Great. Great.
But
Yeah.
it's just the being in the it's just
Yeah, yeah,
and it
absolutely.
is frustrating sometimes, but I'm
Hmm.
also purposely putting myself in situations like
Yeah.
this way more than I would be in normal life.
Hmm.
Like in
Yeah.
normal life this
I
would
know.
never be a thing, but I'm
Yeah.
continuously putting myself into stories and into so much emotion
Yeah.
daily with these
Yeah.
people and we're all, a lot of us are coaches, so even
Yeah.
coaching, so between holding space for that and then holding space for podcasts,
Yeah.
it's draining sometimes. So I actually really appreciate this because I do feel that pull sometimes at the end of the day where I
Mhm.
literally feel weird. I
Yeah.
kind of feel like kind of like that, kind of like
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
so this is good. I really appreciate the shower thing. I appreciate the grounding thing, which I do go for
Hmm.
walks.
Hmm.
But maybe doing it barefoot for some of
Barefoot is
that
the
walk
best
would be good.
because, right, because see what happens when we take too much of energy from the people, our body becomes positively charged. So
Okay.
as you go barefoot or your body touches the ground, the earth is negatively charged. So it neutralizes those energies. That's why you have to do it barefoot. If you
Okay.
wear something, then it's not happening for you.
Yeah.
So I just
Oh,
want to
I
make
do
it
it a lot
easier
because I
for
exercise in the morning, but then a lot of times at night, just
you.
to
Yeah.
like, oh, I
Yeah.
have to like, I
And I think what
purposely go for a walk
Marie
just to
said, like
like
plant,
breathe.
have some plants in your home. That is also a very good idea. Go and touch the soil. Simple. Just go in. If all the empaths, if you need to immediately do something and you're not feeling, good about the situation in the morning or in the afternoon, just go have a plant in your home and just go and touch it.
I love that.
That's
I
it.
love that.
Yeah.
That's
But give it
awesome.
some time to get it neutralized. So it takes up your energy and you're free from it and you feel good about it.
That's great. Thank you so much. And you're up. Your question's up. What's your question?
Yeah. So little bit of introduction about myself, which I forgot to give in the beginning, was I'm from South Florida, as Sabrina. And so my journey has been really interesting in a way that being a neuroscientist and being quite successful as there as well, and learning how mind works and becoming a coach, full-time coach. I really enjoy working with people. So it has been I think Sabrina knows all about my journey, and it's been really fascinating. So my question to all of you would be, when we talk about self-love, so is your self-love is equivalent to your self-worth or self-value, and how do you value yourself? Anybody?
Say the question again, Geeta. Is it
Yeah. So the question is the self-love we are talking about today. So is self-love is equivalent to self-worth
Worth.
or self-value? And what do you value about yourself, which is equivalent to your self-love?
Okay.
So I don't think they're the same. I think in order to love yourself, you need to fully embrace and acknowledge your self-worth. So I think your self-worth is made up of your energy and your values and your authentic being and your strengths and your weaknesses and all of it. And self-love is your ability to love that. But I think they're totally, I do think they're different, because if you don't know who you are, then you can't fully love who you are. And there's a lot of people out there, they're like, oh, well, I love myself. When I was in corporate, I was like, I love myself. I'm in the best shape of my life. I've got a great job. I'm super successful on paper. But I didn't fully, I wasn't honoring who I was at my core. So, and I was hiding so many elements, and I was keeping myself small. So I think that I think there's a difference, but they're very ingrained. Like it's almost like the chicken and the egg thing, but I think the self-worth and the authenticity comes before the self-love.
Yeah, Tori?
I'm thinking of pretty strong examples of people who have one without the other. And I think you have to have both, because if you value yourself, but you don't love yourself, like, I feel like that's dangerous for a lot of reasons, because it's like you're putting yourself first. You know, there's that sensitivity and taking everything personally. And it's just like, how could this happen to me? You know, and then there's that like unintegrated, you know, aspect. And then there's people who really love themselves, but they don't really value themselves, which is, you know, just like, I love myself so much that I'm not going to step outside my comfort zone, and I'm just going to like stay really small in this corner, and I'm just going to love myself over here. And so I feel like, you know, like Jen was saying, like chicken, egg, like, I don't know which one comes first, but you have to have both, and you have to have both in a healthy way, not a way where you're like shoving it in everybody's face. Like it has to be personal. It's one of the most personal things that you can do to establish that. And, you know, you can, I don't know, it's hard to describe. It's like you can be I'm like thinking of Bible references, like you can be the light on the hill, like showing people, but not like the missionary, like going and shoving it in everybody's face and being like, you have to do this, and this is the only way, and stuff like that. But it's like, if you model it, people will be drawn to you.
So that would be example of what, Tori? Like if you modeled what, like self-love or self-value?
Like,
both at the same time?
Both at the same time, in a healthy way, in a way that is like for yourself and not for the good of humanity, even though it is for the good of humanity. So it's complicated.
I know. Yes, Tina. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think they're different. I mean, they're not the same. I think you need both. Like, I'll give you an example. I didn't love myself being in the corporate world because I settled. I was unhappy, and I didn't value myself either. So what did I do? I stayed there because I was comfortable and I was making good money, but I didn't value myself to leave because I was afraid, and I didn't believe that I could be an entrepreneur, that I could make it. Okay. So I didn't love myself enough to say, you know what, I need to leave here and do what I really love to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I didn't value myself.
Right.
You know, so you need both, but you definitely need the love. And knowing your value, knowing what you're good at, knowing knowing your skills, your talents, your gifts that you have to the world, knowing who you are is so important. And that comes with, you know, having confidence in who you are, and communicating your value, and not settling, is so important.
And I think teaching other people how to treat us.
Yes.
Because it's acknowledging and doing all the things you just said, but also setting those boundaries and strongly communicating to other people that I know my value, I know my worth, and I love
Mhm.
myself. And because I love myself, I am going to teach you how to treat me. And if you don't treat me with the love and respect and worth that I deserve, then you need to walk out. And I think that's a huge element of self-love, because so many times we're like, I love myself, I know my worth, I do all the things, but then I still let people treat me like shit. Well, why? Do you not fully embrace it? Do you not truly love yourself? So like, what's the next step of self-love so you can tell people and show people how to love you the way that you deserve to be loved?
Yeah. And you got to love yourself first.
Yeah.
Jen, I
Yes.
kind of disagree with you, but it might just be semantics.
Totally. Go ahead.
I feel like when, I don't know, I feel like people treat us how we treat ourselves.
Mhm.
And so if you're like, hey, treat me this way, then it's like too much. I feel like if you just say no as much as you need to and like continue to treat yourself with love and respect, they'll catch on or they'll get out. But you don't really have to be like, you know, treat me this way and I need to do this. And because I feel like I've seen that before, and it's almost like they're asking permission. It's like, you know,
I would agree with you. I think it's semantics.
okay, yeah, I'm sure.
Showing. So it's like, if we love ourselves and we stop the behaviors, then we're telling them that it's not okay.
Yes.
So it's like,
Same page.
yeah. Like earlier today, I was coaching somebody, and they're trying to get out of a toxic relationship. And we talked about like, what boundaries do you need to set? Because cold turkey doesn't work. It hasn't worked. So how long do you give before you respond to a text message? And it was that reality check of like, there had been no space at all. So even waiting an hour was a huge boundary. So it's like, how do you slowly start showing people that I am not going to give you my energy? And giving yourself. So yeah, total semantics there, because I agree. It's not just like, you can't call me. It's like, I'm not going to answer. Marie, please.
Yeah, Marie.
I had a bug. Sorry.
Oh,
No, you're
I was
amazing.
like, "Wait for me." Oh, no.
But yeah, it's like, how do we show people with our energy and our actions what Tori's spot on.
Yeah, I think I would totally agree with Tori and Tina, because self-love and self-value, they have to be integrated together. If you lack one of those, you don't know how to value yourself, your strengths, and that leads to the confidence, the self-worth, what you charge in the world, like you were in the corporate world. What you were charging was there, but you lacked the self-love. You knew your value, your self-worth, you were confident, but that was absolutely missing.
Yeah.
You thought your value, you were showing a monetary value to the world, but not to yourself, because
Exactly.
that's how. So a lot of women, I think, they relate to their self-worth or self-love is equivalent to image they have, unfortunately, and the money they have, the finances. So most of my clients, when they come to me, they have this big issue going on. I'm not earning, or I'm earning too much. What do I do? So there is something going on in my relationships and this and that. So many reasons there. But absolutely, you should know your values well. So value is nothing when you know, like Tina said, you're confident in what your strengths are and the boundaries along with it. Like when you have to say, Jenny just said, when you have to say no means no. Tori said the combination of both. Yes, no means no. Like it's as simple as that, right? You have to set that. So if you have a good values, you will definitely be able to do that. You know how to value yourself. You will attract those people in your life with self-love and self-value. They would come to you, and of course they would not try to disrespect you in any manner.
And I think, to your point as well, Geeta, about like knowing your values and standing strong in them, it's also being able to acknowledge and communicate what you need to uphold those values, and being willing to have really hard conversations sometimes. The hardest boundaries we have to set are the ones that serve us the most.
Yeah.
So it's being able to recognize for ourselves, what do we need to uphold this value? What do we need to let go of? What do we need to honor?
Yeah.
And where do we go from there? Is it something that we can do ourselves? Is it something that we have to have a conversation with somebody else and communicate it in a way that's coming from a place of love and respect, but also very firm? How do we do it? And you are the only one that will know that answer for yourself. There is no right or wrong.
Absolutely.
It's just knowing, like, I need this. I need to feel safe. And unfortunately, to feel safe, that means I cannot talk to you anymore. Please,
Correct.
respect.
Especially in the relationships. I totally agree with you, because people show love to you, but do they value you? Or they value you, don't show love to you. So you
Mhm.
have to make that distinction there. But you need to know both of your sides, like of those like love and value. How do you value yourself and how do you love yourself?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love that.
I have like, because a lot of times when we say relationship, we think like our partners or our spouses, but this happened to me with one of my best friends, where I realized that she wasn't seeing me as a whole person. She was compartmentalizing
Yeah.
me, and some of the choices she was making was directly impacting me and my safety. And she didn't see it that way, but I very much felt it that way. And I ended up having that conversation with her to say, like, unfortunately, I do not feel safe being
Mm.
your friend, because these choices that you're making that you think are separate are not. They directly impact me and who I am as a person. So if you cannot see me as a whole person,
Mhm.
I need to ask for a break and we put in a time period, and we ended up just saying, you know what, we're never going to go back and we're done being friends. But
Yeah.
it was because I took that assessment and I loved myself to say, I don't feel safe, and I deserve safety, and I deserve people in my life that see me as a whole person. And it was the hardest conversation. She was my very best friend, and it was the hardest conversation. But the moment I had it and the moment we took our break, I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better, because I didn't realize the weight it was having on me every day.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's honoring yourself and loving yourself enough to realize this person does not make me feel safe. This situation does not make me feel safe. So let
Yeah.
me do something about it.
Right. Most of the times, it's always with people who are close to you, friends, family, spouses, kids, You have issues with them because you're not able to say to them anything. But you are going through that process, like valuing yourself or devaluing yourself rather than valuing yourself. So, I think once you take a stand, Jenny, now it's all gone, it's all good. Even now you can go and speak to her because now you have taken out from you and you can still know
Mhm,
what is going on with you. Where did you not value yourself? Yeah,
mhm.
great
That's
example.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I can totally relate to that. I had a similar story, Jen. I do want to say, though, you're up next. Introduce yourself a little bit and tell us your question.
So my name's Jen. I'm a mindset and empowerment coach, owner of Conchi Coaching, and I'm just loving this entire conversation because like I said in the beginning, I'm super passionate about helping people break free from limitations. And one of the biggest limitations we have is the ability to love ourselves. And I think I think that's a limitation because we don't give ourselves permission to know ourselves. So it's this whole conversation about finding our authentic being. And Geeta, that was a great tee up question, because it is like the self-worth, the value, the love, how do they all integrate? And I think such an important part of that is taking time to discover who you are. I know that I didn't fully know who I was until I was in my low 30s when I had an emotional breakdown at work. And all of a sudden I took that step back to be like, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending. I can't keep following somebody else's definition of success. And it wasn't until I did that I realized that fear-based values were guiding me. And I had to understand, what are my core values? Who am I? What does bring me joy? What is my life purpose? Or at least what do I believe I was put on this earth to do? And how do I do that? So I have so many questions that I want to ask, both that I wrote down ahead of time and that have come up. But I think the question that I'm going to go with is one that came up in a talk that I was doing the other day, a workshop about defining success. And the question that came up was, what do you do if people don't embrace the new version of you? and the new authentic version of you. What do you do? And I know what I answered, but I would love to hear what you would answer if a client asked, I'm doing all the work, I'm discovering who I am. What do I do if people don't embrace me for this new version of me? Tori?
Again, probably not the best answer, but like there's other fish in the sea. Like it's, I mean,
That's what I said.
okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't embrace it, the new you, then okay, bye.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too simplistic, but I mean, depends. Like, okay, if it's your family, I don't know. Would you tolerate more because it's your family? And I don't know.
I think continuing to give them chances to meet you where you are is great, but not like going back to where they are in a place that compromises your integrity.
Right. Yeah. Integrity
So
is
like
huge.
if they screw it up once, or like if they don't meet you where you are or whatever, like I'm one of those people that like I just give infinite chances. Like I'm not going to compromise myself and like be what they want me to be. But like if they're like, okay, you know, I want to meet you where you are. I want to celebrate you where you are and everything. I'm like, okay, great. And then like if that doesn't go well, like that's fine. I'm going to stay here. And then, you know, if they're like, okay, all right, I'm back and everything. And my family is wonderful. I'm not speaking about them specifically, but you know, it's like I don't think there's anything wrong with giving multiple chances if people want to step into another chance.
Yeah. I love that because it's like giving space and grace if they're willing to try. And it's also understanding you've done all the work to get to where you are. And they probably didn't see half of that journey because we always hide that messy middle.
Yeah.
So it's a combination, kind of, Tori, like you said, like other fish in the sea, totally. Because my initial response was like, find new people, which is part of it. Find strong people, find people in your new space that can understand and allow you this continued growth, but also give that space and grace to the others if they're willing to try. And if they're not, boundaries. So I love that. And that went super quick because apparently we're all on the same page with that. So I would love to also ask, you know, and I think we've hit on this so many times tonight, but what I find with a lot of my clients is they're saying the right things. They're doing the right things. They have the self-love journal. They know they're strong. They have the affirmations. They have all those surface level things, but there is something blocking them from fully embracing and fully stepping into self-love and being wholly vulnerable to love themselves. And I'm wondering if you guys, like, I know what I kind of do with my clients to help them get through that, but I would love to get another perspective on what you guys do with your clients and how you help people stop, really go to like, from just like talking the talk to walking the walk and embracing this. Sabrina.
So one of the things that I use religiously is seeking the inner child. So every single one of my clients, I encourage to have a relationship with every single child within them. So I believe that we are every year old. So we have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old and a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old, all of us inside of us. So one of the things that I encourage my clients to do is when they are feeling certain feelings, whether it's anger or fear or happiness or frustration or sadness, to connect with who is feeling it. Because a lot of times it's not our present self. A lot of times it is a past age. So I always encourage them to connect with that individual, however old they are, and to speak to that individual and to embrace, as Gita said, that individual with a hug, mentally, emotionally, physically, right during the session, whatever feels comfortable for them. And I feel as if that works. I feel as if that really truly works, and it really helps them feel whole, because we're all over the place sometimes. You know, our 1-year-old is getting distracted with this, our 16-year-old is distracted with this, our 27-year-old is distracted with this. And when you continue to bring them in to you and embrace them and talk to them and speak to them, I think it really makes you feel like a huge community within yourself. And you know, that kind of relates to what was just being talked about as far as finding you know, what to do when the people that are in your world don't necessarily treat you the way you want to be treated. When you are feeling as if you have, like myself, I'm going to be 40 years old, I have 39 me's. That's a huge freaking community. That's a lot of people. Like, I'm good, you know. But when you really start to visualize that, feel that, understand that, it starts to become real. And I think that that really creates a real community of self-love within yourself.
I absolutely love that. I love the visual of like having that huge community.
Yeah.
And as you were saying that, it actually, I had completely forgotten about this. In a training I was in once upon a time, they had you seek the inner child, and it totally didn't resonate with me, which is why I'm like in and out. But one of the things was the speaking and embracing, but it was also taking the time to ask the inner child, what do you need?
Yeah.
What do you need right now?
Yeah.
And how can I give that to you? Because ultimately that's what you need in your adult space. So thank you for bringing that back up, because like at the time it did not resonate with me. I'm not a visual person. So I struggle with those things personally. So I kind of forget that they're tools to use with my clients sometimes.
Yeah.
But I love that visual of like, there's 39 yous.
Yeah.
Which, watch out, world, because one of you is super powerful.
True. 100%.
Gita.
Yeah. So I think if your client is struggling a lot for self-love, so there are 4 main categories I ask them to do the assessment on. One is emotional, when we talk about emotional inner child, feelings and how you're embracing your inner child. Physical, how they're taking care of them, the physical being, right? The mental, then again, mental is emotional / it's all also understanding why you're getting these emotions, right? So there's a deeper work over there. Then other one, the fourth one is very fascinating to me, and I started using it almost, I think, 4 or 5 years back, was the spirituality. Because I feel when somebody's struggling a lot to self-love, we need to find out as a coach that what do they have faith in if something goes wrong in their life. It could be higher self, it could be universe, it could be God, it could be any of the names they want to use it, because they are lacking some kind of faith in their existence. And that is also directly connected to the self love, because you would only love yourself, like 10% of it would come to you. Okay, I have faith, somebody's going to take care of me, universe is going to take care of me, any of like any whatever you want to name it, your faith you believe in is going to take care of me. So you have some faith to move forward. It might be little to begin with, like let's say 10% in the beginning. Your client would say, no, I don't care, I'm an atheist. That's fine, that's okay, because you're still building on to have faith. Or it could be just Mother Earth, like Gaia, as simple as that. So when they say they're atheists, you can tell them, where are you living? They would say, we are living here. So do you feel that connection a little bit to that or not? Because if they say so, again, they're having a connection to their own mother, right? We all do have 2 mothers. It's very important for us to have faith in something to move forward in their life. So I do a detailed assessment. Where is faith? Where is this fear? Is it like, or they say, I don't like going to church, or I don't like to going to synagogue or temple or anywhere. So let's see, what is it coming? Why are they like this? What's the resistance coming up, and why they're losing the faith? Because we need them to hold their ground in totality, the holistically with W, if you
Yeah.
really want them to uproot all those feelings. So I think I would do it in all 4 areas. That's what I do.
And I love that last one, because when I introduce spirituality to my clients, it's like I always say, like, spirituality, it doesn't have to be religion. What are your core values?
Exactly.
What lights you up? What's your purpose? But
Yeah.
what I'm really hearing from you is what grounds your faith? What gives you that power and your will to live? Where's like what grounds you in that desire to try things? Why did you call me as a
Correct.
coach? There had to be something for you to realize that you needed to pick up the phone to call. So thank you for those. That's awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
Tori or Marie, yeah. Just
I'm officially the only person here who does not have clients, so take that into account. But I just know for my own journey with that, that was me. I was doing yoga, meditation, I was going to therapy, and she was basically a coach. She was like, calling me on my shit. And, I was like doing all the stuff, like setting the boundaries and everything. And I was still so depressed. And the thing that really unlocked it for me was pretending. Like for like 10 or 15 minutes a day, I would pretend to be this, beautiful, angelic version of myself, where like I just have so much love for myself and the people and the universe and just like all this stuff. And it was like gag at first, because I just wasn't connecting to it at all. But it was like, if it wasn't me, and it didn't have to be me, it took the pressure off of it. And I could just act that way for like 10 minutes and just pretend, like when you're a kid and you pretend to be a princess. And like that, I mean, I probably like fought it emotionally the first 3 times, but then after that, it was my favorite part of the day. And then it just like, it honestly was like a lock and a key for me. And like, even now, like if I have a bad day or something, I'll go back to that, where I'm like, I'm going to pretend to be having a good day. And I'm going to pretend that I am just like so full of grace and patience and like all this stuff. And then I become it. Like, it's like, that's really all it takes is, and it's like, there's no pressure because I'm just pretending. I'm just faking it, but then it just kind of like bleeds into my psyche.
I love that. And it truly does go into that manifestation, right? Like we are what we release into the universe. So if we say like, I love myself, I'm amazing, I have a backbone, I can set all these boundaries and fake it till you make it. I'm a huge proponent of fake it till you make it. Like put that energy out there, manifest it. It'll come true at some point.
And the thing is like, there's always like, especially if you grow up in a culture or a family or anything where self-love is kind of looked down on, or, like sin is a pretty big thing. And it's just like, no, you're sinful. You're definitely a sinner and everything. You almost like forget how to do it, or you feel like it's bad, or you have an automatic, resistance against it. And so if you, I lost where I was going with this. But like if you have those affirmations, I found it again. If you have those affirmations, but you have like, yeah, but not really, even in your mind, even if you can't hear it, it's still there. It's still that wall. Like if you just fake it and that you're pretending and it's okay because you're pretending, then you kind of bypass it because you don't have, you're not doing it for real. You're just faking it. So it's like, you don't have to put in that, well, the truth is I am not that good of a person and I don't really love myself that much and I'm not very successful. It's like you don't even have that because you're pretending to be. So it doesn't matter.
And I think what you just said there is so important, because I know when self-talk is so important, and it drives me nuts when I see people out there, and it's typically on social media because that's what I binge. But it's like, they post a picture of something. They're like, sorry about the mess. Like, I literally did not see the mess until you posted the mess. Or like, hey, this is really good, except for blah, blah, blah. I'm like, stop with the accepts and the buts and the sorries. Like, celebrate it for what it is. Leave. If you have the urge to say like, but not really, or sorry about it, like, stop yourself. Stop yourself. Like, and I catch myself doing it too. Like the other day I posted a picture of something. I started to be like, sorry, my desk. And I'm like, that's real life. And literally nobody else is going to see that my desk is a mess because they're going to look at what was on my screen. But yeah, I think that, you know, it's so much easier in fake world and pretend world to leave that off. But it's like that acknowledgement and awareness that we do that and stopping it. Because I think that's so powerful when it comes to self-love and embracing it, is don't belittle yourself.
100.
That's awesome.
This has been absolutely fantastic. I so appreciate every single one of you being here. It's about that time. Does anybody have any closing thoughts? We got 10 minutes on the clock. Any last thoughts? Self-love and holistic healing.
Can I share a story?
Of course.
And can somebody else go first while I find it? Because I wrote it so eloquently on Instagram.
I don't know. It depends. This has been absolutely fantastic. I really got a lot out of it for myself, even more so than I was even anticipating. One of the things that I do is take notes. Every impact panel, I take notes thoroughly, as if it's my own therapy session or coaching session. And that's one of the things that I love about this community that we are building here is we're all teachers and we are all students at the same time. And I think that the more that we can embrace that and understand that, the higher we'll rise, the more we'll rise. The more we'll rise. Jen.
All right. Thank you. I needed a second to find myself. So it's a client story. And it's super short. But I mean, her journey was not short, but I will Jay. All right. So when Jay and I started working together, she had already done 6 to 8 months of that work, like the deep work, the high level stuff with the journals, working with a therapist. And she had made a lot of life changes to help free up her energy and reconcile with her self-love and self-confidence issues. And she knew that she needed more, which is why she reached out to me. But a lot of the stuff kept coming back to fear and self-love and the affirmation that she didn't love herself and the affirmation of all of these fears. So we spent a lot of our sessions working on rediscovering who she was, embracing who she was, which is really an energetic, free-spirited, creative soul who loved deeply. Loving deeply and openly was a superpower for this individual, is a superpower for this individual. But it was something that she was so afraid to show because it had gotten her in trouble in the past. And in one of our sessions, this was back in January, she was stressing out because she, Tori, like you, really believes in astrology and lives and breathes the maps and the stars. And she has this app, and it is not something I'm well versed in, but I fully embrace when other people are. And she was stressing out because according to her astrology app, her window to cultivate a deep relationship with someone new was coming to an end.
Oh.
So, yeah. So she literally word vomited.
No.
Yeah. Like super painful, right? Super painful. So she finished word vomiting all of her stress and concerns on me about her desire to find a life partner. And, it was January and it was coming to end in February. And I was like, Jay, like, repeat to me verbatim what your app is saying. Just tell me what your app says. And she said, my window to cultivate a deep relationship with someone new is coming to an end in February. It started in July. And I looked at her straight in the eye. And I said, Jay, take a step back for a second and think about all the work you've been doing over the past few months. Who is this new relationship with?
Girl, I
She
wasn't expecting that. That was so good.
she literally started crying,
Ah,
full body shakes, and was like, "Oh my God, the relationship is with me." So
wow.
like, think I literally have chills remembering that session. And I think that is like at the root of everything we've been talking about tonight when it comes to self-love. It is so much deeper than words. It is realizing that we have the love and support and power within ourselves, and we do not have to look elsewhere for that. So, like, if you're struggling with self-love, it starts right here. Build that relationship with yourself
So
because
good.
that's the one that's most important. So thank
So
you for
good.
letting me share that because it's like so powerful.
Yes, 100%, 100%. That was so good. And this is a really good example of me pulling in emotion because I literally almost started crying. That was so powerful. I just love it. I just love it. I just feel all the feels. I could feel that. And I'm so happy for you and for her. How amazing.
Yeah,
How
chills.
amazing.
And
Yeah.
everyone has the ability to do that.
Yes.
You just have to realize, like, we're so busy looking outside, just pause and look inside for a second.
Yes. Oh, that was so fantastic. What a way to close.
Yeah.
That was absolutely perfect. You can go ahead, Tori. That's fine. Thank you. I so appreciate every single one of you being here. I appreciate everyone who was able to hang out with us today. Thank you so much for those of you that are still watching live. We still have 49 people hanging out watching us. So thank you so much for chilling with us and spending your afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are with us. This is Her Version. This is the Her Version podcast. I hope you received some awesome tips on how to create self-love and heal yourself holistically. I know I did. These women, along with others, take time every month to open up about parts of their lives in order to inspire the world and give back. If you resonated with any of them, please follow and reach out to them. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here or at herversion.life. All of the websites for all of the panelists was on a ticker at the bottom of the screen. So if you did resonate with any of them, just look for their face. If their face is on the screen, then their website is on the screen underneath. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. As always, do something awesome today. Much love.